Today, we're going to be talking about toy hunting, and we've brought in a subject matter expert on this. We've got Tyler Russell of TJ Toy Hunts. So we're going to be talking about finding stuff at your local Walmart, all the way up to searching for your grails at the cons. So stick around and let's chat about it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Strong Collectors Podcast. I'm your host, Dakota, here with my co-host, Jordan. And like I said, we are joined by a special guest today, Tyler Russell of TJ Toy Hunts. And we are going to be talking about all things toy hunting. So everything from going to your local Walmart, searching the clearance section, trying to find those brand new drops at Target, all the way up to going to San Diego Comic-Con and beyond to try to find those grails, seeing some creators in person. And we're going to get all the good info. First, Tyler, can you introduce yourself to the guests, kind of tell people about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tyler Russell. I'm from Tennessee. I've been collecting toys for quite a long time because I'm a 30-year-old man-child. So I've got tons of stuff in the other room over there. I used to have a podcast. I was the only person on the podcast, so it kind of didn't work out that well. So I started YouTube last year, I think, and I like toy hunting and collecting toys and anything pop culture related, really. But that's just kind of stuff I enjoy. So I base my extra funds around that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
You're in good company with the almost 30-year-old man-childs over here, so don't worry.
Awesome.
So I guess let's start out with how did you what was your early memories of toy hunting? I would assume that was probably as a younger kid, maybe it wasn't necessarily toy hunting, but you were just kind of going through the toy aisles. What about as a collector, searching for the next item? What were some of your early memories of that?
I think probably the earliest memories is Star Wars stuff, because I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where a lot of the collection started. And I had, some lightsabers that I had bought and some of the Revenge of the Sith figures. And that's kind of where I started, I guess, a real type of collection. And then it was, Spider-Man and Batman and all that stuff. But I think the earliest was probably Star Wars, Phantom Menace. I think my dad used to take me out toy hunting when he was collecting, and he didn't take stuff out of the box, and I was kind of, I was a child, so I was like, that hurts my heart.
Yeah.
But I would, if I had Jar Jar, I had to try and get Boss Nass, and then Captain or what is his name? The Gungan,
I'm trying to think of his name now too.
Hey there, Captain Tarples.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the one. So I tried to get each of the Gungans, and then I'm a huge fan of the the Astro droids, so I'd get R2 and R4 and so on and so forth. I try and get all those together. So I guess that's really where the collection itself started, because I would want multiple of the same kind of thing, but just that go together, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned the Revenge of the Sith stuff. I remember when those were coming out, that was huge. They were just those action figures. I remember my Walmart had the preview edition toys. You remember that, where they'd put them out before the movie, but they'd be 5 or so sneak peek figures. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, and that got really cool because you would see a Padme on the back, and you're like, oh dude, we got to get that, because she had the outfit when they went to Naboo with Captain Panaka, and they were shooting the things up the wall. It wasn't out yet, but you still had 4 months, and I guess that's where it goes from there, and then transitions to now, where you follow Facebook and Instagram for NECA or Hasbro, and they're coming soon, pre-orders now. That was kind of the pre-order thing, was just being there's a drop date, and we're gonna wait in line for hours to go get that toy. So it's a little easier nowadays, but I kind of miss the whole, you know, wait outside in line at
Mhm.
Toys R Us for the new line of figures to come out, and then
Mhm.
you just V line back to where they would be. But
I say we don't really have that as much nowadays with like
Shove a couple kids out of the way on your way to the store.
exactly.
yeah.
Nice.
No, that's right.
Yeah,
Um,
we've even known. Yeah, sorry.
go ahead,
You
Jordan. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, like, even in the past few years, um, I think there were some like waves where we'd be going to stores and finding them
Mhm.
and looking for them that way. But it does feel like a lot of a shift has been, like you said, kind of to pre-orders and some of that, which kind of has pros and cons to it. I
Mhm.
think as a
Yeah.
collector.
Yeah, I feel like some of the only like reasons to like stand in line now are for like conventions in person, but you're never gonna really have like that Toys R Us line or like even like I remember GameStop people would be waiting in line to get the new like Xbox or whatever, and
Mhm.
you kind of lose. I don't know, like it was kind of at the time you were kind of like, oh man, I don't want to go stand in line at midnight all night and like camp out, but then now you're kind of like, oh, I kind of wish I could do that and like just actually get my hands on it as soon as it's dropped. But yeah,
The
um,
last time I waited in line was Toys R Us, I think 3 years before they called it quits.
mhm,
I waited out there for, oh no, it was longer than that because it was The Force Awakens. I was collecting Pop Funkos at the time, and they had the Porg, and there was a chase
Mhm.
for it. And I was like, it's literally the first Star Wars chase figure that they ever did. And I was like, that thing's going to be worth something. It looks really cool. I kind of want to go get it and hang on to it. And each store was only going to get like one, maybe. So I waited in line at Toys R Us on Triple Force Friday, and oh, this is May 4th. So I waited
Mhm.
in there, and I got inside, and I went straight to him. I found it, and I was like, yes. But I was in line for like 3 hours. I was literally the first person there, and I'd let my work know the day before. I was like, Toys R Us opens at like 8. I'm not gonna be here until at least 9. And they were like, oh, okay, that's fine. And that was kind of cool that they went with it. But
nice.
yeah, it was that was the last time I really waited in a line for a specific figure at like a
Mhm.
retail store.
Were you able to get the figure?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh
good.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, I was the first one there, and the people behind you want to like kind of push through, and I'm like,
Mhm.
dude, I'm 6'1", 165, kind of like a slim build. I was Usain Bolt back to the pops. So oh yeah.
It's
Nice.
fun.
All right, so how about getting in like out of retail and into like maybe like the mom and pop type shops, the local comic book stores? Where do you think like the pros and cons of, because I feel like we don't really get a lot of clearance sales at those kind of places, but they might have
Yeah.
a little bit more of the older stuff we're looking for.
Yeah, so one of the things a lot of people don't know, and we have it here in Knoxville, in South Knoxville, there's a place called Comics Exchange. It's Knoxville's longest running comic shop. It's been there for 28 years.
Wow.
And I've been going there for close to 16 or right at 16 years getting stuff. So my buddy Bill Langford owns that shop, and he does something that I think a lot of comic shops do. If you would ask, if you kind of go up to him and say, hey, if I have an account, what's the percentage off? Because he'll do books. You get 20% off your book purchases, but he also does it on statue pre-orders, Hot Toys pre-orders, Mythics, like whatever you want to buy, it's always 20% off, and it's like a bulk shipping, so you don't
Okay.
have to pay shipping also. So each figure that I get for Hot Toys, it's 20% off right off the bat, and then no shipping. So right there on a $220 figure, you're saving like $40.
Yeah.
So um I mean that's pretty intense. That's a lot of
Mhm.
money to save right off the bat. And then I think the pros to going to a comic shop is you can definitely find some of those I guess a toy shop, toy comic shop, whatever. You can find those older figures that you just wouldn't find retail.
Mhm.
And then they have a lot of the newer stuff that wouldn't be sold in retail stores like Target and Walmart, like
Sure.
Storm Collectibles, Mythic Legions, um, some of the more I guess the harder to find NECA stuff.
Mhm.
So there's that, and then I guess really the only downside to go into the comic shops and toy shops would be if it's somewhat of an older figure and you happen to find it at a toy shop, and then they've had it for a minute and they've kind of, you know, looked it up throughout the years and adjusting the price. So like a figure that you could have got for $80 online, maybe 180 online, and then you can get it for like, you know, 150 at the store.
Sure.
So I think that's kind of one of the downsides, but it's subjective, you know, to whatever you really want to pay for it. And it never hurts to ask, you know,
Yeah.
because especially local businesses like, hey, you know, you have 180, would you take 160?
Right.
But I think the pros to going into a retail store is that they are cheaper generally because they're newer figures and they have like a base price that they can't. I don't think it's like an MSRP price, but there's like a base price that they go by. But outside of that, the cons that I've noticed a lot in the past couple of years is, especially with Hasbro stuff like Black Series and GI Joes, all that stuff. You go in there and you can't find anything. I mean, I don't know how often you guys go to retail stores, but if you're looking for a Lando Calrissian Black Series, you're gonna find him.
We're set.
But I've literally thought about army building Lando just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
But you know, that's kind of what sucks about it, is that you have to be committed enough to get there, like, and ask people, you know, wait till they're stocking stuff and go, oh, hey, I see a little Hasbro box there. You mind if I grab? And just annoy the crap out of the employees. And it's like, you know, they have a job to do. Just wait, I guess, you know, stick around until they open the box or something. But those kind of people are the ones that resell. I've noticed the people that, you know, probably like us three here, we're more collectors rather than reselling everything. So when we're going into a store, we're looking for something for the collection. The people who get there and annoy the employees about, hey, open that box, let me get, you know, all of those Mandalorian figures out of there because somebody found them on the East Coast and they're, you know, online for $30 more right now. So let me get 6 of those. But that's, you know, that's kind of the name of the game, I guess. There's a resale market and people make it kind of a job. So I can't hate the idea. I'm just not a fan of the people that do it.
Sure.
Because, you know, when I was collecting stuff like Hasbro Black Series, and I would go in and I just can't find anything. And I drive for my job. So this is a cool thing. I drive for my job and I have for 7 years. So in those 7 years, I've gone from, you know, this collection, so on. So in the days that I drive, usually I pass about 3 Targets, and depending on where I'm going, I'll pass about 6 Walmarts. And along with that, you know, every other Walmart has a GameStop in that area. So we'll say about 4 GameStops. I would stop at all of those places in one day to find 1 or 2 figures. Won't find a single one, but they've been released. They're here. People have found them here, posting on the local pages. It's such a waste of time. I mean, I get my job done.
Sure.
David, if you're watching this, that's my boss. But yeah, so like I mean, I still get my stuff done, but it's just, I hate doing that, which is why I'm really happy about where my collection is now. How it's not so much things that you can find retail. There's things that you have to pre-order, or you have to go to the comic shops for, or retailers at, you know, for Four Horsemen, for example, there's certain places that are retailers for those figures. So you would go there and purchase those, and you don't have to fight everybody at Target and Walmart,
right?
Because not everybody wants to pay the actual retail price. So I think, I don't know, kind of feel like I'm just chasing over the same thing here, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense in a full picture just to kind of stay away from the like Target and Walmart and all that.
Mhm.
In
I
my
think kinda-
opinion, I guess.
Yeah, to your point about, buying up all the figures, a lot of times if they know it's in high demand, online orders will have like limits of what you can do. But you mentioned the Mythic Legions, which, we've talked a lot about kind of the way that they do pre-orders, which can be pretty cool too. But
Yeah.
there's also the element of, like you said, when you're in the store and you do find it, it's a pretty cool experience to be like, oh man, like I
Mhm.
got this,
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. Because it's unexpected. You don't see it coming. You walk in, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the one I've been looking for. You grab it, and admittedly, I'm a completely transparent person. I'm going to tell you right away. Anytime I've done that, I will sit in the truck or the car wherever I'm at. I've done it on my motorcycle. I'll get out to the motorcycle and I'm like, oh shoot, look at this Leo from TMNT, and I'll put it back. People are giving me the eyes. I'm like,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. So so it's like, it's that sense of, I mean, I can literally get chills thinking about the fact that we could go in somewhere and be super surprised and excited. And it's happened at comic shops too, though,
Mhm.
especially with Legions, because there's places, most places are not retailers for Mythic Legions.
Right.
So when you travel somewhere and you end up somewhere in Ohio where Toy Department is, and you walk in there and you see a wall of Mythics, you're like, Jim Carrey from The Mask, like eyes bulging out, like, oh my God. And then you're looking at the prices, and there's some older ones you want, and instead of 45 and 50, they're 80. So now you're just like in the back of the store next to the horror stuff where nobody's at, like counting your money, like, oh man, I can get two and two only.
Yeah.
So that's exciting too. And it definitely happens at comic shops, but finding stuff retail at a store when you completely do not expect it is, I can agree that that's one of those really exciting moments.
Yeah.
I kind of miss that. I miss that so much. But just retail anymore, I just can't find anything.
I think
you feel that way, Dakota?
Yeah, because Jordan and I would both, like, when we first got back into Marvel Legends again, we would try to go there and like find like the new Ursa Major wave or some of those that were out a few years ago, and it was kind of cool to get those in person. But then as time went on, it was just kind of like with a lot of that Hasbro stuff, it's like you could find it in person and pay the retail, but then if you would just wait another month, it'd be on clearance for like half off. So then we kind of stopped with the like trying to find them so hard, because we would kind of do the same thing where it's like, oh, we're on our way home, we're going to stop at Walmart, Target, Best Buy, GameStop. And it's like, now my trip home, that what if I've just added on an extra 45 minutes to an hour of taking some extra stops, walking through the stores and coming up empty day after day. You're kind of like, I think I'd like to just have that time back and get the stuff on clearance later.
Like it's super repetitive. You're just wasting so much time. Go home and play with the toys you already have in that amount of time, honestly.
Right. Like, exactly.
It's crazy.
So I think recently with the new like Avengers line that came out, like I was able to find the Black Widow in stores, and a lot of those like pre-orders got pushed back. So that was kind of cool to be like, oh, I found her in person, take her off the shelf, get her home, and like be able to like, it was kind of fun to have that, that like excitement of like, oh, I found it. Yes. And it's one that I'm like, I'm happy paying the full retail for. Cause like if she goes on clearance, whatever, I would rather just have the figure and like get to enjoy it for that extra amount of time. So,
yeah.
And then even like the local comic book stores too. Like if I saw Legions at a place, I feel like I would almost feel compelled to buy one just to like show the store like, hey, I like what you're selling here. Sell more of it. And you always get that like you probably will have to pay a little bit more. Like if Legends are $25 at the store, you're probably going to pay $30 at the comic book store, but you're like handing your money to the person that's going to like live off that money versus like Target, where it's like, you pay for the employees, but not really. Like a mom and pop shop, you're actually paying for somebody's like in your town's livelihood, and that's a little bit more rewarding. I can't do it every time, but when you can, it's kind of it's a nice feeling.
No, I definitely agree with that. And I have those moments, and my rule is like a $10 difference. Like I'll pay for something in a mom and pop shop, especially because I'm like, not like known around here, but I'm friends with like all the people that run the comic shops for the most part. So I'm like, I would rather give them the extra $10 instead of going to Target. Plus, if I go there, I'm like 90% sure I can get it. If I go to 10 Walmarts, I'm like 20% sure, and I'll, you know, 70% sure I'm just wasting time.
Right.
I wasn't trying to get to 100% because I know I left out 10%, but I'm like 70% sure I'm just wasting time at that point. So
Sure.
yeah, I'd rather just go to the comic shops and give them the extra $10. It's worth it.
Okay. So then let's take it a step further, going from mom and pop shops to now like conventions, either like local smaller conventions, or you just came back from San Diego Comic-Con. What are kind of the like what's the difference even from like mom and pop shops to now comic conventions?
So I am I'm one of those people that, like, when I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that are somewhat invested in the same thing, cosplay, pop culture, all that kind of thing, it gets me really excited and makes me feel a certain kind of way. I guess it's like I would get waiting outside of Toys R Us, for example, and you're talking to the person waiting behind you. You're like, "Oh, dude, what are you waiting on?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go get some Star Wars." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, me too." Like, you like, "So what do you have?" And you have those conversations. So I guess it's like a sense of community, really, is what it is. And so when I'm surrounded by the amount of people that go to conventions and just the amount of things that I like, and I have anxiety to some extent, and I'm like, I've been really good with controlling it for the past year or so. And going into places like that, big crowds, just if it was like a makeup convention, right? There's not really much for. I mean, I'd look good in eyeliner, but there's just not much for me there, so I can't stay as distracted as I could anywhere else. So we'll say pre YouTube, before I was filming, I would be so invested in just like, we got to go here and here and here. And I never have a system. I don't know how many people do this, but I always tell myself in the car, I'm like, okay, before we get out, we're going to go to the right, we're going to go around to the back, and then we're going to, snake through each aisle. It's here, straight, left, right, up, down. And if I'm not there for the weekend, I know for sure every convention I go to, I'm just missing stuff left and right. But as far as like toy hunting and what you can find at conventions versus mom and pop shops and retail is, so if you take what you think you would find, like, not realistically, but what you would hope you could find retail, and then what you imagine like a really awesome comic shop being, and then like take, because not all comic shops have tons of toys, so you take a comic shop amount of toys and statues with the actual toy shops like Toy Federation, you throw that all together and just like vomit into a convention center, and that's kind of the setup. So if you're looking for Storm Collectibles, SH Figuarts, Mythics, Black Series, NECA specifically, I see you got the gargoyles back there, so you have those. And you want like Toy Biz and Mezco, you're pretty much guaranteed to find at least one thing from each one of those lines at every convention you go to. That's like I don't know, say it in like a crappy way, but like a named convention, like Fanboy, Comic-Con, PowerCon, Heroes Con, Dragon Con. Your local conventions, you're more willing to find like the people like me, for example. I have totes of stuff downstairs that I want to sell, from like Pop Funkos to my custom dioramas I've done to, some Hasbro stuff. And I would take all of that and I would go to a local convention, because it's like $60, 60 to 80 for a booth, versus somewhere like Fanboy. I have paid $400 to set up at Fanboy before and barely made my money back.
Right.
And I think it's because there's so many options, and people are like me, and they'll not do this, they'll just go everywhere.
Sure.
So they kind of miss it. And it was weird, because every time I've set up at a convention, I would see like the same people walking by. I'm like, that he cosplaying Catwoman. Hey, cat lady, you've passed by here 6 times and you have not looked in this booth. So please, yeah, you. So I think it's really cool going to conventions, and I've actually introduced 2 people, 2 of my buddies that have never been to any kind of pop culture convention, have went for their first time with me, and it's awesome seeing the looks on their face, because I kind of go in knowing what to expect, except for Comic-Con, and I'll get to that one. But going to all the standard type of conventions, they've never been there, so like seeing their faces. My other friend Tyler, he walks in, he's like, what oh god, they're so where do we go? And I was like, well, my plan was to do this, but Lord knows that's not happening because we're both ADHD, so let's go that way. So
Right.
It's really fun. But yeah, I think as far as finding stuff, that's like your best chance. And people sometimes that just toy hunt, they're not really there to meet people. They're like, well, I don't want to pay $40 to $60 for a ticket to go maybe find some toys I'm looking for. I'm like, no, you will. Mythic Legions are the only figures that I've really not seen at every convention. I actually have wanted to collect those for years, and I didn't have the chance until November of last year, and that's when I started. So it's because I had never seen them at a convention until November last year at Retro Toy Con, which was weird because it's like retro toys,
Not
and
necessarily
that's what
retro, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a third party 6-scale Joker, and this guy was like, I'll give you these 6 Legions, and I was like, you could have gave me 4, but I'll take the 6.
Right.
So yeah, he really wanted it, and they were all builders, so like 45, $50 each. So it ended up being better on my end, I guess. And I told him that, and he's like, that's okay. We're retailer. We get a bunch of them. So I was like, oh,
nice.
All right, cool, sweet.
Yeah.
I'll take it. But yeah, that's I hope that I mentioned it, I'm a little ADHD, and I'll go from like here to here to here. So hopefully that kind of answered the question as far as like finding stuff. But San Diego Comic-Con was very different because yes, there are vendors there. Some of the best vendors I've seen. There was a guy that had my house is small, so probably from like the front door window to like the kitchen door back there, he had a booth that big and tiers of Marvel Legends and Marvel Select figures. My cat's like touching the and they were all, it was really cool because they were staggered up like stairs, and they were just lined up. And then he had the row that was like $20 and 30, 40, 50.
Nice.
And it was a really cool setup, but I had seen stuff like that before, just not on a bigger scale. The most impressive to me was like Image Comics with Todd McFarlane and Scott Campbell, the artist, comic book artist, and then NECA and Entertainment Earth and Tamashii Nation, like all of those guys. So the EE booth, for example, had a gigantic circle, probably as big as the roof of my house. It was massive, hanging from the ceiling, and it said Entertainment Earth, Entertainment Earth. So wherever you were on the convention floor, you could just like look up and kind of peek around. You're like, okay, yeah, we got to go that way for Entertainment Earth. So when you do that, and it's like you're walking into their store, which is really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. It sounds like, kind of the experience of, it's one thing to browse online or look at pre-orders, but to like see things laid out like that is always a cool experience. Because we've done a couple cons, Dakota and I have gone to, and kind of looked at different things. So yeah, it's definitely different when you see them like all in person. Is a cool experience too, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it definitely helps you to like find something that maybe you didn't know you wanted, or like even like you said, you were hunting for like Legions for a while, and I would assume that like you probably could have gone onto eBay and bought a Mythic Legion, but being able to be in person at a place and like hold it in your hand and be like, oh no, that's exactly as cool as I thought it was going to be, versus like looking on the like scrolling through eBay and you're like, do I want to spend that $80 on a figure I've never actually like seen any of the other ones? Because like even going through Comic-Con, like I don't really do much with Dragon Ball Z, but like at New York Comic Con they had like a giant booth of their figures set up, and I was like, that's actually pretty cool, and I can totally understand why people are wanting to collect that, even if you don't even like Dragon Ball Z. Like the accessories were cool, the figures look super nice, so I think that's just a fun part to see something new and discover when you go places like that.
Yeah, for sure. Did you go to Comic-Con this year?
We went to New York Comic Con, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, man, I was hoping you were gonna say, yeah, we went to SDCC because they had like outside the back along the I guess the docks or whatever, behind the Marriott, they had this massive Dragon Ball Z setup. I mean, Perfect Cell and Piccolo, Orange Piccolo or whatever, they were God, like the Twin Towers. They were just over everything, and they had all these life-size statues, and they probably had about the same setup with the figures on the big square display. And you know, that's I stopped collecting Dragon Ball Z SH a little while ago because I was running out of room for everything else.
Sure. Yep.
So being there, and even the videos I've done from Comic-Con, like when I saw that, I went, oh, this is going to make me want to get back into Dragon Ball. And my buddy Tyler, he's big into it. So he's like, hey, so I heard you're going to get back into Dragon Ball. I was like, listen, man, I don't want to, but that display, it made me so badly want to go buy some.
Right.
Which you never know. That's part of like being an avid collector. You never know what you're going to get into. There's the Mafex Spider-Man 185 or 182 they just come out with. And I'm like, looks really cool. It's $100. If I saw it in person, I don't know what I would do.
That's the one I have, I think, right here.
Yeah.
Right. The newer
oh,
one,
is it?
the Spidey?
Yeah.
I got that one. I've seen the other one, but I've been dabbling a little bit in Mezcos lately, so I've got some of those going, but I'm gradually stepping into some of the
more sophisticated
items, but
oh yeah,
know, I'm just gonna start wearing a robe and have a pipe here when I talk about a Mezco. No, no, it is cool though. It's neat to see those kind of higher end ones, like you said, that you're not really gonna find in, you know, Target or not even always your local stores. So just to kind of check them out in person is like when we were in New York, they had the HasLab, the Engine of Vengeance Ghost Rider there, which we were kind of had, you know, some episodes talking about it, but when we saw it in person, it was like, whoa, that's actually really cool.
For sure.
See. Yeah. So, well, the next step from Mezco, I think, is Hot Toys. So careful, Jordan.
Yeah, I know.
I have tons, and I can tell you they're not cheap, and it's addicting, and it's like, oh, I need another one.
It's like, I was gonna say it's such a slippery slope when you start getting into something else, because like I said with Cosmic Legions, I was like, oh, I just like that one guy looks cool, and then like I'll get like a sidekick for him, and then I was like, well, if I've got two, then I should probably get like a villain, like somebody to fight against him. And then I might as well get the next. And then it's like, I'm going to have the whole wave in a minute. So.
Oh, Dakota, you're freaking me out, because Four Horsemen is actually setting up their actual booth at PowerCon next weekend. And I have like $600 that I've saved up. So like, I'm going to get some mythics, but I really, did you get the big green guy? What is it? Slog, I think.
No, he'll be at PowerCon. I got the Kragnar, which is kind of the same body, same size.
How do you like? Oh my gosh, dude, that's like a half giant scale, right?
Yeah, same as the. I gotta. Oh, we're back here. So yeah, about same. He's a bit like thicker, like his upper body's like a bit more jacked.
Oh, dude.
But he's substantial. All right, I'm going to jump in here real quick. We ended up talking to Tyler for quite a while, so we're going to split this up into two parts. Today was mostly talking about going to conventions. The next episode is going to be more focused on Mythic Legions and collecting those. So make sure you stick around for that part of the interview. And until next time, stay strong.